My name is Alexandra, and at 29, I thought I'd finally achieved my dream after saving $390,000 over 10 years for my first home. Then I discovered my parents had secretly installed tracking software on my computer to monitor my finances. When confronted, my father smirked and said, "Thanks for your naivety. Your money has now secured your brother's bright future." I couldn't hold back my laughter because the money they took was actually a decoy. If you're watching this, please drop a comment telling me where you're viewing from, hit that like button, and subscribe to follow my journey of reclaiming my power. I grew up in a middle-class neighborhood in suburban Chicago with what appeared to be a typical American family. My father Harold worked as a financial advisor at a mid-sized firm, building a career on helping others manage their money. My mother Evelyn was a successful real estate agent, always highlighting her knack for finding the perfect properties for families. And then there was my younger brother Travis, the undisputed golden child of our family. From my earliest memories, Travis could do no wrong in our parents' eyes. He was charming, athletic, and socially adept, traits my parents valued far more than my academic achievements or responsible nature. While I was studious and careful with money, Travis lived in the moment, spending freely and relying on our parents to bail him out when things inevitably went wrong. The financial inequality between us became apparent when I was around 8 years old. My parents gave us both allowances, but mine came with spreadsheets and expectations. "Alexandra, you need to account for every dollar," my father would say, reviewing my weekly spending. "This is how responsible adults handle money." Meanwhile, Travis received twice my allowance with zero oversight and could always ask for more when he ran out. Birthday and holiday gifts followed the same pattern. When relatives gave me money, my mother would say, "Let me put that in your savings account for safekeeping," but those funds mysteriously disappeared when I asked about them years later. "We used it for family expenses," she'd explain vaguely. "You should be grateful for everything we provide." When I was 13, I experienced my first significant financial betrayal. I'd saved nearly $300 from babysitting neighbors' children, carefully tucking the bills into a notebook hidden in my desk drawer. One day, I found the money gone. When I tearfully confronted my parents, my father said, "We needed it for Travis's application fees for summer camp. He has such athletic potential, and this opportunity was too important to miss." That moment ignited something in me. I realized no one would protect my financial interests except myself. I began working part-time jobs at 16, starting as a cashier at the local grocery store, then picking up weekend shifts at a coffee shop. I created a simple system. I would show my parents the paychecks, cash them at the bank, give half to my mother for college savings, and secretly keep the other half hidden in a locked box at my friend Natalie's house. My educational path further highlighted the disparities in our family. I worked relentlessly for a full academic scholarship to the state university, while my brother's mediocre grades weren't an issue when my parents paid full tuition for his private college experience. "Travis needs the connections and opportunities of a prestigious school," my mother explained. "You're so independent and practical, Alexandra. You'll be fine wherever you go." I chose to major in computers. At 23, I started my first professional job, making $62,000 annually. My systematic saving plan had already been in place for 4 years, with homeownership by 30 as my primary goal. I lived with 2 roommates in a modest apartment, drove a reliable used car, cooked most meals at home, and automatically directed 40% of every paycheck into my savings account. As my career advanced through hard work and additional certifications, my income grew, but my lifestyle remained intentionally frugal. By 27, I was making just over $100,000 yearly as a senior systems analyst, but still shared an apartment and drove the same car. Every promotion and bonus went directly toward my house fund, which steadily approached my target amount. Throughout these years, my parents continued their pattern of dismissing my achievements while celebrating Travis's minimal efforts. When I was promoted to team lead, My father's response was, "That's nice, but don't get too ambitious." Women often hit glass ceilings in tech. When Travis landed an entry-level marketing job after 3 months of unemployment, my parents threw him a congratulatory dinner and bought him a new suit. My brother's financial failures became a recurring family theme. He'd impulsively quit jobs, make lavish purchases beyond his means, or invest in get-rich-quick schemes that predictably failed. After each disaster, my parents would step in to rescue him, paying off his credit cards, covering his rent, or providing loans that were never repaid. "Your brother is finding himself," my mother would explain when I questioned these bailouts. "Not everyone can be as naturally cautious as you are." Then the pandemic hit. Like many companies, mine transitioned to remote work indefinitely. My lease was ending, and my roommates were moving in with partners. The housing market was uncertain, and though I was nearing my savings goal, I wasn't quite ready to buy. My parents suggested I move back home temporarily to save on rent while working remotely. "Think about how quickly you'll reach your house fund goal without paying rent," my father pointed out. "It's the financially sensible choice." For once, his advice aligned with my goals, and I reluctantly agreed to a 6-month arrangement. I had no idea this decision would lead to the biggest financial betrayal of my life. I converted my childhood bedroom into a functional home office, setting up my computer desk by the window overlooking our backyard maple tree. Initially, the arrangement seemed perfect. I saved nearly $2,000 monthly on rent and utilities, accelerating my path to homeownership. My parents respected my work hours, and I contributed to household expenses while maintaining my independence. The first unusual signs emerged about 3 weeks after I settled in. My laptop began experiencing performance issues, running slower than usual and showing unexpected battery drain even when plugged in. As someone who works in technology, these symptoms immediately caught my attention, but I initially attributed them to routine software updates or background processes. More concerning were my parents' suddenly specific questions about my finances. At dinner, my father casually asked, "How much did your last stock purchase cost? Was it really worth investing in that particular company?" I hadn't mentioned any recent stock transactions to them, leaving me puzzled about the source of his information. These inquiries escalated. My mother wondered about the exact balance of my savings account. My father offered unsolicited investment advice with suspicious timing, suggesting I liquidate certain assets just days after I had researched them online. "I could manage your portfolio much better than you're doing," he insisted repeatedly. "At your age, you don't have the experience to make these decisions." One afternoon, I returned from a grocery run to find my computer slightly repositioned on my desk. The screen was at a different angle and my chair had been moved. When questioned, my mother claimed she'd been dusting, but the lack of cleaning supplies in the room contradicted her explanation. These incidents prompted me to install security software as a precaution. I set up a simple program that would log all activity on my computer and notify me of any unauthorized access attempts. The results shocked me beyond anything I could have imagined. The security scan revealed sophisticated keylogging software hidden deep within my system. This wasn't amateur spyware, but a professional-grade monitoring tool that recorded every keystroke, captured screenshots at regular intervals, and transmitted this data to another computer on our home network. Further investigation traced the installation to my father's account, time-stamped just 3 days after I moved back home. My hands trembled as I dug deeper. The spyware had captured everything: my banking passwords, financial account logins, investment platform credentials, email communications with my financial advisor, and even personal journal entries where I'd documented my savings milestones. Worst of all, I discovered evidence of small unauthorized withdrawals from my accounts, clearly test transactions to verify access. That night, I confronted my parents with intentionally vague accusations, wanting to gauge their reactions. "I've noticed some unusual activity on my computer and accounts. Do either of you know anything about that?" I asked during dinner, watching their faces carefully. My father's expression remained neutral, too neutral. What kind of activity? Maybe you have a virus. You know how dangerous public Wi-Fi can be, he deflected, his fork never pausing as he continued eating. My mother jumped in with excessive concern. Oh, sweetie, that's terrible. Maybe someone hacked you when you were working at that coffee shop last week. You should let your father check your computer. He's very good with technology. Their gaslighting continued as I pressed further. I'm worried someone might be trying to access my financial accounts, I said, watching my father's eye twitch slightly. That's why you should let me handle your investments, he replied smoothly. Young people are always targets for scammers. We're just trying to protect you, Alexandra. Protection doesn't explain unauthorized access to my accounts, I countered, noticing how my mother suddenly became fascinated with rearranging her piece. My father's tone hardened. I think you're being paranoid. This is why we worry about you living alone, always suspicious of everyone. Family looks out for family. Everything we've ever done has been for your benefit, even when you couldn't understand it. I retreated to my room that night, locking the door before allowing myself to break down. The devastating weight of parental betrayal crushed against my chest as tears streamed down my face. These were the people who should protect me, not exploit me. The violation felt intimate and profound, a breach of the fundamental trust between parent and child. As the initial shock subsided, I spent hours researching my options. I could confront them directly with evidence, but their gaslighting response had already shown this approach would likely fail. I could move out immediately, but that would alert them that I discovered their scheme. I could report the intrusion to authorities, but the prospect of having my parents arrested, despite their betrayal, was difficult to contemplate. By sunrise, my tears had dried, replaced by resolute determination. Instead of fleeing or confronting, I would fight strategically. If they wanted to play financial games, I would show them I'd learned more than they realized. In that moment, I decided to set a trap that would reveal the full extent of their betrayal while protecting my actual assets. My first call that morning was to my college friend Gabriella, who now worked as a cybersecurity specialist. After swearing her to secrecy, I explained my situation in detail. Her initial shock gave way to analytical problem-solving, a quality I'd always appreciated in our friendship. Your parents crossed a major line, Gabriella said firmly. But if you want to catch them rather than just escape, we need to create a convincing digital illusion. Over the next week, Gabriella taught me how to create remarkably convincing fake banking interfaces. The key is in the details, she explained during our video calls. Account numbers that follow the right format, transaction timestamps that align with bank business hours, consistent balance calculations. The human eye looks for patterns, and inconsistencies trigger suspicion. I chose Chase Bank for my elaborate decoy, as it had a distinctive interface that would be convincing when glimpsed on my screen. Gabriella helped me design a complete fake banking portal, including account summaries, transaction histories, and even a realistic mobile app interface for when I checked my phone. The next phase required meticulous attention to detail. I created a transaction history spanning 10 years, matching my actual saving pattern. Every paycheck deposit, tax refund, and occasional withdrawal was documented with realistic timestamps and processing details. I even included the expected minor inconsistencies, like occasional overdraft fees in my early saving years and small cash withdrawals around holiday periods for gifts. The centerpiece was a savings account showing a balance of $387,000, just shy of my $390,000 target. I included detailed documentation of how this sum accumulated, regular deposits, modest investment returns, and disciplined spending habits. The narrative told through these transactions matched exactly what my parents would expect to see based on their knowledge of my financial habits. Meanwhile, I moved my actual savings to a new secure account at an entirely different bank, one my parents had no knowledge of. I changed all my financial passwords, created new security questions with answers unrelated to personal information my parents might know, and set up two-factor authentication using a new phone number they weren't aware of. With Gabriella's help, I installed counter-surveillance tools on my computer that would monitor and record my parents' digital activities while appearing invisible to their spyware. Think of it as a mirror behind a one-way window, Gabriella explained. They can see you, but don't realize you're watching them watch you. Each night, I reviewed detailed logs of account access attempts, building a comprehensive record of their snooping. The pattern was clear. My father checked my financial accounts almost daily, usually while I was showering or out for my evening walk. My mother's access was less frequent, but more thorough, methodically examining transaction histories and account details. To bait the trap further, I strategically forgot to log out of my Decoy Chase account several times, making it especially easy for them to access. I left browser tabs open to expensive home listings in desirable neighborhoods, creating digital breadcrumbs suggesting I was ready to make a purchase soon. I reinforced this narrative with loud phone conversations they were meant to overhear. Yes, I'm hoping to make an offer next month, I'd say to an imaginary real estate agent while making dinner. The market seems perfect right now, and I've finally reached my target savings amount. The effect was immediate and dramatic. My parents' interest in my financial activities intensified visibly. My father began offering to help with paperwork for my impending home purchase. The closing process can be complicated, he insisted with false concern. You'll want experienced eyes reviewing those documents. My mother took a different approach, suggesting family co-ownership for security during a casual Sunday breakfast. Property values in those neighborhoods you're looking at are likely to appreciate significantly, she noted, pretending this information came from her real estate expertise rather than her snooping. If we co-own the property, we could potentially help with the down payment to get you something even nicer. Even Travis suddenly developed an interest in my housing search, asking surprisingly detailed questions about my budget and timeline. Just curious about how much you've managed to save, he said with artificial casualness. Must be nice to have such a big down payment ready to go. The stress of maintaining this charade while documenting every violation was immense. Each morning, I checked my actual accounts to ensure they remained secure. Each night, I updated my evidence file with new screenshots of unauthorized access attempts. Living under the same roof as people actively plotting to steal from me created a constant state of hypervigilance that left me exhausted. My therapist, Dr. Patricia, provided essential support during this period. During our secure video sessions, she helped me process the complex emotions of the situation. What you're experiencing is a profound betrayal trauma, she explained. The people who should provide safety are creating danger, which challenges your fundamental understanding of trust and family. Despite the emotional toll, I remained committed to my plan. I needed comprehensive evidence of their intentions. Taking money from an account they had improperly accessed would cross the line from unethical behavior to actionable fraud. And based on what I knew of my parents and their escalating financial support of Travis, I was almost certain they would eventually attempt withdrawal once they believed I had nearly enough for a house down payment. The first withdrawal alert came on a Tuesday morning, exactly 17 days after I set up the Decoy account. The notification showed $5,000 had been transferred from my fake Chase savings to an account I didn't recognize. A quick investigation revealed it belonged to Travis, an account I hadn't previously known existed. That morning, my parents behaved completely normally at breakfast. My mother poured coffee and asked about my work projects. My father read the newspaper and commented on stock market fluctuations. Neither showed the slightest hint of guilt or awareness that they had just stolen thousands of dollars from their daughter. The second withdrawal came the following week, this time for $25,000. 3 days later, Travis appeared at Sunday dinner sporting an expensive new watch and designer clothes. Just treating myself for hitting some personal goals, he explained vaguely when I complimented his new Rolex. My parents exchanged subtle proud glances across the table. I created a detailed spreadsheet documenting every theft, recording exact timestamps, IP addresses, and account details. Each entry included notes about my parents' and brother's behavior immediately following the withdrawals. The pattern was unmistakable. Money disappeared from my account. Then Travis suddenly had expensive new possessions or experiences. Late one night, I overheard my parents talking in the kitchen when they thought I was asleep. Through the heating vent that connected our rooms, my father's words came through clearly. Alexandra owes the family after everything we've done for her. This is just balancing things out. My mother's response made my blood run cold. She'll never notice if we do it gradually. By the time she's ready to make an offer on a house, we can explain that the market changed or financing fell through. She's always been too trusting. The withdrawals escalated in both frequency and amount. A $50,000 transfer disappeared on a Thursday. The following Monday, Travis drove up in a brand new BMW X5, claiming it was purchased with a work bonus from his entry-level marketing job. When I raised an eyebrow, my mother quickly changed the subject to dinner plans. The next withdrawal was $100,000, nearly wiping out what would have been my actual down payment if the account had been real. 3 days later, Travis announced his engagement to his girlfriend Jennifer, presenting her with a diamond ring that I later discovered was worth nearly $30,000. We're also putting a down payment on a house, he announced proudly at the family dinner celebrating their engagement. Mom and Dad have generously offered to help us get started. My father raised his glass in a toast. To Travis and Jennifer, who have shown such financial responsibility and planning. We're proud to help you begin your lives together in your own home. The irony of his words as he praised my brother's financial responsibility while secretly funding it with my stolen savings was almost unbearable. I excused myself to the bathroom, where I silently screamed into a towel before composing myself to return to the table with a congratulatory smile. The emotional struggle of maintaining my composure during these family events took an increasing toll. I found myself developing insomnia, losing my appetite, and experiencing anxiety attacks when alone. Dr. Patricia suggested additional coping strategies and helped prepare me for the eventual confrontation. You're gathering evidence not just for potential legal proceedings, but for your own validation, she explained during one session. Gaslighting succeeds by making victims doubt their own perceptions. Your detailed documentation ensures that when the truth emerges, no one can deny what actually happened. The final withdrawal came exactly 2 months after the first, a massive $210,000 transfer that emptied the decoy account except for a nominal balance to keep it active. The following morning, my father appeared particularly smug at breakfast, patting my shoulder with false affection. "You seem tired lately, Alexandra. Work stress getting to you?" My mother joined in with faux concern. "How's your house hunting going? Found anything promising yet?" She exchanged a knowing look with my father when she thought I wasn't watching. That evening, Travis called to share his exciting news about starting a small business venture. "Mom and Dad are providing initial investment capital," he explained enthusiastically. "They said they've been saving for years to help me get established." Isn't that amazing? With the decoy account now empty and my family's betrayal fully documented, I knew the time for confrontation had arrived. My emotions cycled between rage, heartbreak, and a strange sense of validation. The parents who had dismissed my financial acumen had been thoroughly outmaneuvered by the daughter they underestimated. I spent one final night reviewing my evidence and preparing mentally for what would come next. The confrontation needed to be public enough to prevent denial, but controlled enough to accomplish my objectives. As I finalized my plans, I felt an odd sense of calm replacing the anxiety that had plagued me for weeks. The truth was about to emerge, and with it, a reclaiming of my power. I decided a family gathering would provide the perfect setting for exposure. My grandmother's 75th birthday was approaching, giving me a natural opportunity to suggest hosting a celebration dinner at my parents' home. "Let me handle everything," I offered. "You've both been so supportive lately, and I want to contribute." My mother readily agreed, pleased by what she perceived as my continued naivety. "That's thoughtful of you, Alexandra. Family celebrations are so important." In preparation, I compiled a digital evidence package including screenshots of the spyware installation, records of unauthorized account access, and documentation of every fraudulent transfer. I organized these chronologically, creating an undeniable narrative of systematic theft. As a precaution, I stored copies with Gabriella and my attorney. I arranged for my real estate agent, Samantha, to call during dinner with exciting news about an accepted offer on my dream home. The timing would be crucial, creating the perfect opening for discussion of my finances. The day of the dinner arrived. I spent the morning preparing my parents' favorite dishes, creating a relaxed atmosphere that would make their subsequent exposure all the more dramatic. By 5 o'clock, the house filled with extended family. My grandmother Margaret arrived with my grandfather George, followed by my father's sister Patricia and her husband James. My mother's brother Douglas came with his wife Stephanie and their college-age twins. Travis arrived last with his fiancée Jennifer, making a grand entrance and immediately showing off his new car to our cousins in the driveway. My parents beamed with pride as he described its premium features, conveniently omitting how it had been financed. During dinner, conversation flowed naturally as I bided my time. My grandmother shared stories from her youth, my uncles discussed politics, and my aunts exchanged recipes. My parents kept directing attention to Travis and Jennifer's engagement and home purchase, highlighting their wise financial decisions. As dessert was served, I stood and gently tapped my glass. "I have some wonderful news I'd like to share with everyone." All eyes turned to me expectantly. "I've been saving diligently for 10 years toward buying my first home," I began, noting how my parents suddenly tensed. "And I'm thrilled to announce that." My father interrupted, a slight edge to his voice. "Alexandra, perhaps you should check your finances before making announcements. The housing market can be unpredictable." I smiled calmly. "Actually, Dad, I'm very aware of my financial situation, including the recent withdrawals from my account totaling $390,000. A hush fell over the table. My grandmother's fork clattered against her plate. "What withdrawals?" my Aunt Patricia asked, looking confused. My father's face hardened as he realized what was happening. "Alexandra's confused about some routine account maintenance I was helping her with. This isn't the time for financial discussions." "I'm not confused at all," I countered. My mother's face paled. "Alexandra, you're embarrassing yourself. Your father was simply helping manage your money for better returns." "By transferring it to Travis's account?" I asked innocently. "Is that where the best returns are these days?" Travis shifted uncomfortably as family members turned to look at him. My father, realizing denial wasn't working, suddenly changed tactics. He straightened in his chair, a cold smile forming on his lips. "Fine. Yes, we redistributed some of your savings to help your brother. Thanks for your naivety. Your money has now secured your brother's bright future." His tone carried unmistakable mockery. The gathered family members gasped at his open admission. And then I did something that confused everyone. I laughed. Not nervously or hysterically, but with genuine amusement. "Dad, that would be devastating if it were actually my money you took," I said when my laughter subsided. "But that account was a decoy I created after discovering the spyware you installed on my computer." The silence that followed was absolute. I opened my laptop and turned it toward the family. 3 months ago, I discovered sophisticated tracking software on my computer, installed the day after I moved back home. It recorded every keystroke, captured my banking passwords, and monitored all my financial activities. I clicked through screenshots showing the spyware's installation timestamp and my father's user credentials. Once I discovered your monitoring, I created a fake Chase Bank interface and account showing exactly what you expected to see. Every transaction history, every deposit, every balance update was fabricated. My mother's hand trembled as she reached for her water glass. That's not possible. It's not only possible, it's documented, I replied, showing additional evidence. My actual savings, all $387,000 of it, was moved to a new secure account at a different bank before you began your withdrawals. The money you stole didn't exist. Travis's face transformed as understanding dawned. The money for the car, the ring, the house down payment was never real, I confirmed. Whatever you spent, whatever commitments you've made, were based on stolen funds that never actually existed. My grandmother Margaret rose from her seat, her voice shaking with anger. Harold, is this true? You stole from your own daughter. My father's face had turned ashen. We were protecting her from herself. She doesn't understand financial management like I do. So you admit to installing spyware and taking money from her account? Uncle Douglas asked, his legal background evident in his precise questioning. It wasn't theft, my mother interjected desperately. Jennifer, examining her engagement ring with new understanding, turned to Travis. You told me you'd been saving for this ring for years. Did you know it was your sister's money? Travis looked trapped between denial and confession. They said they were helping with my fresh start. I didn't ask questions. I returned to my evidence. I've documented 57 unauthorized access attempts to my financial accounts, 17 actual withdrawals totaling $390,000, and countless violations of digital privacy laws. My Aunt Patricia, who had always been my advocate, spoke firmly. Alexandra, have you spoken to the police? Not yet, I answered truthfully. I wanted to give my family a chance to make this right before pursuing legal action. My father's expression shifted to threatening. You would send your own parents to jail? After everything we've done for you? Where's your sense of family loyalty? Loyalty? My grandmother's voice cut through the room like steel. Harold, loyalty isn't taking advantage of your child's trust. What you've done is criminal, regardless of your justifications. The family gathering fractured along moral lines. My grandparents and aunts moved to stand near me, while my parents sat isolated, their deception exposed. Travis hovered uncertainly between groups, his fiancée Jennifer examining him with new suspicion. Here are my conditions for not pressing charges, I stated clearly. First, a written admission of what you've done. Second, Travis returns everything purchased with the stolen funds. Third, you both seek therapy to address why you thought this behavior was acceptable. And finally, you will respect my complete financial independence going forward. My father began to object, but my mother placed a restraining hand on his arm, the severity of their situation finally registering. You have 24 hours to decide, I concluded, gathering my evidence and closing my laptop. I've already consulted an attorney who is prepared to file charges for identity theft, computer fraud, and financial exploitation if necessary. As the family dinner imploded around us, I felt a weight lifting from my shoulders. The power dynamic had irrevocably shifted. For the first time in my life, my parents couldn't dismiss, gaslight, or manipulate me. The truth had set me free, and their web of control had disintegrated in the face of evidence they couldn't deny. The immediate aftermath was chaotic. As family members processed what they'd witnessed, different reactions emerged. My grandmother hugged me tightly, whispering, "I'm so proud of your strength." My uncles and aunts offered support mixed with shock at my parents' actions. Jennifer pulled Travis aside for an intense conversation in the corner, periodically glancing at her engagement ring with visible distress. My parents sat shell-shocked at the dining table, their decades of financial manipulation exposed in a single evening. My father attempted damage control, approaching various family members with justifications that fell on deaf ears. My mother retreated into tearful self-pity, claiming her actions were motivated by maternal concern. Travis seemed genuinely blindsided by the full extent of our parents' scheme. While he had gladly accepted their financial support, he apparently hadn't known the precise source of the funds. That evening, I watched through my bedroom window as he loaded his new car with Jennifer's belongings, returning her to her apartment rather than the hotel they'd planned to stay at. I spent that night at my Aunt Patricia's house, unable to remain under the same roof as my parents. "You're welcome to stay as long as you need," she assured me, preparing the guest room. What they did was unconscionable, regardless of their rationalizations. The following morning, I consulted with attorney Sarah Goldstein, who specialized in identity theft and financial fraud. She laid out my options clearly. "You have an extraordinarily strong case for criminal charges," she explained. "The evidence you've gathered establishes premeditation, ongoing intent, and significant attempted financial harm. After careful consideration, I decided to pursue the path of financial restitution rather than criminal prosecution. I don't want my parents in jail," I explained to Sarah. "I want accountability, boundaries, and acknowledgement of what they did." Sarah nodded understanding. "We'll draft a settlement agreement that requires financial restitution for any funds actually spent, formal admissions of their actions, and legally binding commitments regarding future behavior. This approach achieves your goals while avoiding the public exposure of criminal proceedings." True to form, my parents initially attempted to minimize and justify their actions. My father claimed he'd been teaching me a financial lesson about security. My mother insisted everything was done out of love and concern for both her children. When these justifications failed to gain traction with extended family members, they reluctantly agreed to my terms, likely motivated more by fear of prosecution than genuine remorse. Travis's reaction evolved from defensive denial to what appeared to be genuine remorse. 3 days after the confrontation, he arrived at Patricia's house asking to speak with me. "I swear I didn't know they were stealing from you," he said, his typically confident demeanor subdued. "I thought they were helping me from their own savings, which was uncomfortable enough. I never would have accepted knowing it was your money." "But you never questioned where the money came from," I noted. "Suddenly, they had hundreds of thousands of dollars to give you after years of complaining about their tight finances." He looked away, unable to maintain eye contact. I wanted to believe they were just being generous. It was easier than asking questions. He then handed me the keys to his new BMW. "I'm returning everything. The car goes back tomorrow, and Jennifer's already returned the ring. We've also backed out of the house purchase, though we'll lose the earnest money." The ripple effects extended throughout our extended family relationships. Long-standing dynamics shifted as relatives reassessed their understanding of my parents. My grandmother Margaret provided particularly valuable perspective. "Your father showed similar concerning behaviors in his youth," she revealed during a private conversation. "There were incidents of taking his siblings' belongings and money that your grandfather and I should have addressed more firmly. I regret now that we dismissed them as sibling rivalry rather than recognizing the pattern." Meanwhile, I proceeded with my original plan. With my actual savings secure, I found and purchased a beautiful craftsman-style home in a neighborhood I'd researched extensively. The 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house needed minor cosmetic updates, but had solid bones and a wonderful backyard garden. As I signed the closing documents independently, I felt a profound sense of accomplishment untainted by my parents' interference. Setting up my new home became a therapeutic process of creating a truly safe space. Each decision, from paint colors to furniture arrangement, represented a reclaiming of agency. I installed a state-of-the-art security system with cameras and reinforced locks, not out of paranoia, but as an affirmation of boundaries that would never again be violated. Establishing clear boundaries with all family members became my priority. I drafted explicit guidelines regarding my personal information, financial matters, and home access. Some relatives considered these measures extreme, but those who truly understood my experience supported my need for clearly defined limits. My parents made predictable attempts to regain control through guilt tactics. After everything we've sacrificed for you, my mother lamented during one of our limited phone conversations. Families should support each other unconditionally. I agree completely, I responded calmly, which is why your betrayal was so damaging. Support isn't exploitation or theft. These exchanges became easier as I grew more confident in my boundaries. Each attempt to manipulate me strengthened my resolve rather than weakening it, a fundamental change from our previous dynamic. Travis began his own journey of recognizing our parents' toxic patterns. During occasional coffee meetings at neutral locations, he shared new insights about behaviors he'd previously accepted as normal. I always thought I was the favorite because I deserved it, he admitted during one such conversation. Now I see I was being used as a tool to hurt you. His efforts to make amends and establish independence seemed genuine, though I remained cautiously optimistic. He started therapy, found a new job without our parents' connections, and moved to a modest apartment he could actually afford. Jennifer eventually decided to continue their relationship, but postponed wedding plans indefinitely, insisting on financial counseling as a precondition for moving forward. My former friends divided between those who understood the severity of what had happened and those who insisted family is family regardless of behavior. This natural filtering process helped identify my true support network. I built meaningful connections with people who respected boundaries and understood healthy relationships, creating a chosen family to supplement the biological relationships worth preserving. Through it all, my professional success continued despite the personal turmoil. My company promoted me to senior systems architect, a position that recognized both my technical skills and leadership abilities. The financial security of my career provided additional reassurance that I would never be vulnerable to my parents' manipulation again. The emotional journey included complex, often contradictory feelings. Some days brought liberating anger, others crushing sadness for the parents I thought I had. Vindication mixed with grief, relief with lingering anxiety. Dr. Patricia helped me recognize these responses as normal aspects of processing betrayal trauma. You're mourning the relationship you deserve. The first holiday season navigating our new family dynamics proved especially challenging. I declined my parents' Thanksgiving invitation, choosing instead to host a chosen family dinner for friends and supportive relatives. My grandmother and Aunt Patricia came, bringing traditional family recipes and creating a bridge between past and future. By the 6-month mark after the confrontation, subtle shifts appeared in my parents' behavior. Their initial defensiveness gave way to moments of genuine reflection, particularly from my mother. I didn't see how wrong it was, she admitted during a carefully structured meeting with our respective therapists present. I convinced myself I was entitled to make decisions for you because I'm your mother. I'm beginning to understand how deeply that violated your trust. My father's progress came more slowly, his professional identity as a financial advisor making his actions particularly difficult to reconcile. His initial non-apologies, "I'm sorry you feel hurt," gradually evolved toward actual accountability, though the journey remained ongoing and imperfect. As the 1-year anniversary of the confrontation approached, I found myself in a place I couldn't have imagined during those dark days of discovery and deception. I had created a life with genuine security, not just financial, but emotional. The betrayal that could have destroyed me instead became the catalyst for profound growth and self-determination. Moving into my own home represented more than a financial milestone. It became the physical manifestation of my emotional healing journey. Each room reflected intentional choices made solely for my well-being without compromise or external influence. The sunny kitchen where I prepared nourishing meals, the comfortable living room where friends gathered, the peaceful bedroom where I finally slept soundly again, all these spaces became tangible evidence of reclaimed autonomy. The process of accepting the betrayal required confronting painful truths about my childhood and family dynamics. What happened wasn't an isolated incident, Dr. Natalie explained during one particularly insightful therapy session. It was the escalation of patterns established throughout your life. The spyware and theft were extreme manifestations of control that had always been present in subtler forms. I found a skilled therapist specializing in family trauma, Dr. Angela Peterson, who helped me understand the complex mechanisms of familial financial abuse. Financial control is often overlooked as a form of emotional abuse, she explained. Money becomes a proxy for power, and withholding or taking financial resources creates dependency and vulnerability. Through therapy, I recognized how my parents had systematically undermined my financial confidence while simultaneously exploiting my responsible nature. Their contradictory messages, be independent, but don't trust your judgment, created a perfect storm of vulnerability they attempted to exploit. The grief process for the parents I thought I had extended far beyond the actual confrontation. I mourned the supportive family I deserved, but never had. I grieved for the little girl who believed her parents would protect rather than exploit her. This emotional work proved as important as the practical steps of securing my assets and establishing boundaries. Learning to work through anger without being consumed by it became a central challenge. Anger is informative, Dr. Angela noted. It tells you when boundaries have been violated. The goal isn't eliminating anger, but channeling it toward productive change. I channeled this energy into creating systems that would prevent similar exploitation of others. I consulted with Gabriella to develop a workshop on digital financial security for young adults, focusing on practical protection strategies. What began as a small community presentation grew into regular sessions at local colleges and community centers. My relationship with Travis evolved in unexpected ways. 3 months after returning the car and ring, he asked to meet at a coffee shop near my new home. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," he said, stirring his latte absently. "All my life, I benefited from how they treated you. I got more attention, more resources, more encouragement, and I never questioned why." "It wasn't your responsibility to question it as a child," I acknowledged. "We were both placed in roles that served our parents' needs." "But I continued the pattern as an adult," he countered. "I accepted their help without asking questions because it was convenient. I need to apologize for my part in all this." This conversation marked the beginning of a more authentic sibling relationship. Travis began recognizing the patterns of favoritism and manipulation that had shaped both our lives. He started therapy to address his own issues with financial dependency and establish boundaries with our parents regarding money and decision-making. My decision about forgiveness versus moving forward evolved over time. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting or allowing harmful behavior to continue, Dr. Angela advised. It means releasing the expectation that the past could have been different. Sometimes moving forward with clear boundaries is more healing than traditional forgiveness. I created new traditions and celebrations in my home, reclaiming holidays and milestones with chosen family and supportive relatives. My grandmother's 76th birthday was celebrated in my backyard garden, a healing counterpoint to the previous year's confrontation dinner. The freedom of true financial independence brought unexpected joy, making spending decisions based solely on my values rather than fear of judgment or manipulation allowed me to develop a healthier relationship with money. I continued my systematic saving habits, but also allocated funds for experiences that brought genuine fulfillment. As my personal healing progressed, I found meaning in helping others recognize and escape financial control. I shared my experiences at women's financial empowerment events, always careful to protect identities while conveying essential warnings and strategies. Financial abuse doesn't always look like someone stealing your credit card, I would explain. Sometimes it's subtle undermining of your financial confidence or creating unhealthy dependencies disguised as help. The most challenging aspect of healing involved rebuilding a relationship with my parents under entirely new terms. 6 months after the confrontation, I agreed to limited contact with strict boundaries. Our first meeting occurred in a neutral location with my therapist present. "I'm not interested in pretending nothing happened," I stated clearly at the beginning. "I'm willing to build a new relationship based on honesty and respect, But that requires acknowledging the past and committing to different behavior moving forward. My parents' capacity for this varied. My mother showed greater willingness to examine her actions and respect new boundaries. My father struggled more, his identity so intertwined with financial control that our new dynamic challenged his core self-concept. Progress came in small, inconsistent steps rather than dramatic transformations. Their first visit to my new home occurred nearly a year after the confrontation, a carefully structured 2-hour visit with clear beginning and end times. I provided a brief tour but kept certain spaces, particularly my home office, private. This physical boundary setting mirrored the emotional boundaries essential to our new relationship. Throughout this journey, I developed a finely tuned ability to trust my instincts about people's intentions. The hypervigilance that initially emerged as a trauma response gradually evolved into nuanced discernment. I became adept at recognizing subtle manipulation tactics, not just from family but in all relationships, and addressing them directly rather than accommodating them. This skill proved valuable when I began dating again after focusing on my healing. I met Daniel, a software engineer, through a mutual friend at a housewarming gathering. Our relationship developed slowly as I carefully observed how he respected boundaries and communicated about financial matters. For months into dating, I shared the full story of my parents' betrayal. "I need you to understand where I'm coming from with certain boundaries," I explained, watching his reactions carefully. His response validated my growing trust. "That's a profound violation," he said, genuine empathy in his voice. "No wonder you're careful about financial privacy and information sharing. Thank you for trusting me enough to tell me." Our relationship continued developing on a foundation of transparency and respect, proving that the caution born from betrayal could coexist with genuine connection when paired with appropriate boundaries. As I approached the 2-year mark of discovering the spyware, I reflected on how this painful experience had paradoxically become a catalyst for profound growth. The betrayal that could have destroyed my financial future instead launched me into greater independence and authenticity than I might otherwise have achieved. The wisdom gained extended far beyond financial security. I developed deeper understanding about family dynamics, recognizing that some family bonds are chosen rather than given. I learned that love without respect isn't really love at all, but a form of possession. Most importantly, I discovered strength I never knew I possessed until circumstances demanded it. The unexpected freedom that came from facing betrayal head-on rather than denying or minimizing it transformed my approach to all relationships. By standing firmly in my truth, even when that truth was painful, I created space for authentic connections based on mutual respect rather than obligation or manipulation. Today, my life reflects the security I always sought, not just financially but emotionally. My home, career, and relationships are built on solid foundations of honesty and respect. The painful lessons of betrayal transformed into wisdom that guides rather than limits me. If there's one thing this journey has taught me, it's that true security comes not from controlling others or being controlled, but from knowing your own worth and establishing healthy boundaries. Sometimes the family we choose proves more nurturing than the family we're born into, and that's not a failure, but an opportunity for more authentic connection. What has your experience been with family and financial boundaries? Have you ever had to establish difficult limits with loved ones to protect yourself? I'd love to hear your stories and insights in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear that standing up for yourself isn't selfish, it's essential. Thank you for joining me on this journey, and remember that your financial independence is worth protecting, no matter who challenges it.